Hi guys, I'm back with another video. First and foremost, apologies for the sort of bad quality. Oh man, filming this time of year is difficult, and it's only like 3:40, but it's been overcast all day, so yeah. I have seriously like all kinds of lights here, but it doesn't work very well, does it? Anyway, my video today's video is going to be sort of a video about the series that I've completed. Part 2, because I've actually done one before. I will reluctantly leave that down below so you can check it out if you want to know the other series that I've completed. Because like I'm just gonna start off from where I left off then and on to where I am now. And since my last video of these, I have completed 20 series. I've also caught up to a lot, but this is not that, those are not part of it, or at least I think they're complete if they have additional books. I was not aware of that, or I've just recently become aware of that. But I'll make a comment on that later. The first two series I'm going to talk about are connected in that they're from the same world and from the same author, obviously. They are the Night Huntress series and the Night Prince series. And these are both set in the Night Huntress universe. So, yeah. And currently, there are 3 complete series and 1 new series. One of the series is a duology that has 2 books that follows 2 different couples, so sort of paranormal romance like. And then we have the other 2 series that I have completed that follows the same main characters in all of the books in the 2 separate series. So you have to read them in the publication order in order to get full value of this series. And I really enjoyed, especially in Night Hunter series. That is my favorite, that have my favorite characters. It follows our main character, Kat, who is a vampire hunter. She is half vampire, half human, and was born because her mother was raped by a vampire. So she has a lot of vengeance towards the vampires and want to destroy them from the world. Then she meets Bones, who is a vampire, and when she's trying to kill him, but she finds out that he's not so easy to kill, and they sort of end up teaming up in order to kill vampires that are evil, because there's a difference. The trait you are as a human, you bring along into your vampirehood, if you will. So not all vampires are horrible creatures and kill all the people around you, but those that were evil beforehand are also evil when they're vampires, and their character traits are enhanced when they become vampires, if you will. These were a lot of fun. It has all of the type of magical creatures from the urban fantasy universe. It has wolves, it has vampires, it has ghouls and zombies and all kinds of things, and ghosts as well, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was so fast-paced, and I really enjoyed the audios of this. Night Prince started out really strong, but I ended up it was great. It was good, but not perfect. I didn't like it as much as the Night Huntress series overall, although Vlad Tepes in the Night Huntress series was one of my favorites. He didn't shine very well in his own sub-series, because I think the focus was put on some things that I wasn't really there for. So the Night Hunter series is an overall, I think, 5-star read for me, because I think I gave all of them almost 5 stars. I think, and the Night Prince series is more of a 4-star read for me. So now I can work into the Night Rebel series, which also follows one of the characters from the Night Hunters universe that I'm looking forward to following. He is called Ian McTavish, I think. And I'm gonna try and get to that maybe next year. The third, actually I should have continued with this, but now I'm just gonna talk about the series in chronological form. The next series that I finished is the Life Ship Trader series by Robin Hobb. This is the series that made me a really big fan of Robin Hobb. Before I really enjoyed her writing, I really thought that I saw the potential. I understood where people were coming from when they were talking about Robin Hobb and her skills as an author. But this one was so different in the structure, in the way that it was written, and with the characters. But it also just made me realize how well she writes characters and makes you change your opinion about characters over a series. I've never hated someone so much and then ended up loving that character so much by the end of that series. It's really weird, but I love this series. I gave the first one 4.5 stars, I think. The second one also a 4.5, and I think the third one 5 stars. So the third one was my favorite in the series, but I don't know if I reread it, if it will change a little bit. But definitely a really strong series, almost a 5-star series, a trilogy for me. And this is part of the Elderlings universe, which you should definitely read in the chronological order that there is an order on Goodreads that you can follow, because I definitely recommend that, so that you don't miss out on the sort of fun references to the different series, especially later on in the Elderling universe, when characters show up from the different trilogies and series. The next series that I have completed is the Poison Study series, or the Study series, by Maria V. Snyder. This is also the start of a longer arching world. There are 3 trilogies in this world, and I completed the first trilogy. The first book in that book series is called Poison Study. The second one is called Magic Study, I think, and the third one is Fire Study. And the first book in this series I gave 5 stars. I absolutely love this. I didn't know what it was at all, and I had really low expectations when I picked it up, but I was so pleasantly surprised about it, and I was very intrigued. The second one I enjoyed, but was not as immersed in as the first one, but I think I gave it... Did I give it 5 stars anyway, or 4.5 stars? I'm not sure. And the third one, which was my least favorite in the series, in the trilogy, was Fire Study, but I gave it still a 4 to 4.5 stars as well. So an overall 4.5 stars for this trilogy, I would say, and I'm definitely intrigued to read the next ones, even though I'm not sure if I'm going to like them as much, because they follow a different part of the world, the part that these 2 books were set in a little more than the first one, but I am looking forward to reading them nonetheless and see if I can't be swayed a little bit. The next series I finished was a duology, and that was the Pivot Point duology by Casey West. I read this duology over 2 days, or 2.5 days, I think, like 2 to 3 days at least. And I honestly almost never read a series back to back, and I honestly never almost read a book in one sitting any longer. But this one, I was reading the book as I was driving, the first one, and it ended up in a way that I just needed to figure out what was going on in the second one immediately. So this is sort of science fiction, fantasy type contemporary book. I don't know what to call it. It's the first and only thing I've read by Casey West, but I was very pleasantly surprised. I think I got the first book on my Kindle for nothing and read it relatively fast after I got it, and went and got the second book immediately to read it and finish it. And I give this an overall 4 stars. I gave the first book 4 stars, and although I didn't like the second book as much as the first one, I was still very intrigued and I enjoyed the reading, and I read it relatively quickly. But I still give it like a 3.5 to 4 stars. So an overall rating of 4 stars for this duology as a whole for me. The next trilogy I finished was another Robin Hobb series, and that is the Tawny Man trilogy by Robin Hobb. This is the second trilogy in the Elderling universe that follows Fitz and the Fool, and this one is so good. Like, all of the books in this trilogy are amazing. I have so fond memories about reading this one, and also not so fun memories in the fact that I cried a lot, especially when I read the third one. Fool's Fate was hard to read, but I loved it. The first one, Fool's Errand, was, in my opinion, the weakest link in that trilogy, but still really good. And in this series, I love the underdog trope, and it definitely is part of this trilogy. I love this one. Yeah, Robin Hobb is just great. I love her to bits. The first one was, I think I gave the first one 4 stars, but I'm not sure if it's 4.5 stars as I've been thinking about it. The second one, 4.5 stars, maybe a 5 stars. The third one is a 5 stars for sure. So I don't know if this is an overall 4.5 star series, but I mean, I can't wait to go back and reread all of Robin Hobb's books again and see how I will do on a reread, because I think there's so many things that I would love more on a reread when I know things. But yeah, there's so many layers to her stories, and I really appreciate it. Then I have also completed the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin, the first one being the 5th season, the second one being the Obelisk Gate, and the third one being the Stone Sky. And this is definitely a trilogy where it just got better and better for me as the series progressed. I had a really difficult time getting used to the second person narrative when I was reading this. And I don't know if I do a reread, I will change my mind about that. But the first one I gave 3.5 stars, the second one I gave 4.5 stars, and the third one I gave 5 stars to. So yeah, really, really enjoyed this by the end. But not my favorite series of all, but I definitely appreciated this so much. There's so much diversity in this, and such an interesting magic system and world. And I'm definitely looking forward to try and reread it sometime soon. Then the next series that I finished is a duology again, and that is the Monsters of Verity duology by Victoria Schwab or V.E. Schwab. This is a young adult series that she's written, where it's a sort of urban fantasy type series where humans are living alongside monsters, and monsters are created from different acts of violence, and the more violent the act, the more vicious the monster. Such a really unique concept, and I really enjoyed the first one. I thought it was, for my taste, a good V.E. Schwab book compared to others. And I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The second one I was not so happy with where the direction the story took, but I ended up thinking it had a pretty good end to the story, a satisfying end to the story in my opinion, and I ended up giving it, I think, 3.5 stars. And so an overall 3.5 to a 3.75 star read series for me. The next trilogy that I finished is Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard by Rick Riordan. This is the sort of trilogy where Rick Riordan explores the Norse mythology. And I thought this series started out really great. The first one I gave 4 stars. I think I gave the second one 4.5 stars. And the third book in the series I gave 3.5 stars. So I thought it ended on a not so great, but had a pretty good, decent overall story to it. And I gave it, I guess, 4 out of 5 stars as an overall rating, which has been the same for other Rick Riordan series I've read and completed. And I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to reading more by Rick Riordan. He's definitely, you definitely know what you get from Rick Riordan in the humor and the storytelling ways, and I enjoy that. And I think he always makes, I like stories that takes the mythology genre, and he does it really well. Even if the sort of Norse mythology parts of it leaning a little bit more towards the Marvel direction than the actual Norse mythology that I love from the Valhalla trilogy or series, but it's definitely better than Marvel, so I'm happy about that. But yeah, overall a 4 out of 5 star series for me. The next thing I finished is River of Teeth Duality by Sarah Gailey. This was a really different series that I didn't expect to enjoy so much, but it's an alternative history series that follows a group of characters that lives in a world where these hippos were... There was a sort of talk about whether they should release these killer hippos into the marshlands back in the day, but like it didn't happen. It didn't get through, and probably for good reason. But this is exploring the theory: what if they actually did that? And the cast is really diverse, and the story is interesting. And I really enjoyed the talk around the hippos and how they were bringing them up and all of that. I enjoyed it for that. So yeah, definitely enjoyed it. I think I gave the first one 4 stars and actually also the second one 4 stars. So overall 4 out of 5 star Duality for me. The next one is one... I found out there's some new books in this series. I thought this was complete because I was led to believe it was complete. But there's been 2 new books published in the series. But I think it's a new sort of trilogy-like thing. So I'm counting it still as a completed trilogy. And that is the Hidden Legacy trilogy by Ilona Andrews. This one I love. It's a sort of paranormal, urban fantasy type romance series where they have these elemental sort of magical abilities. Our main character is able to sense when people are lying, for instance. Very, very, very interesting, and I loved it. I think the first one I gave 4.5 stars. The 2 last books I gave 5 stars. So an overall definitely 4.5 star rating for the trilogy. But I don't know if the second 2 new books that's been published is part of this specific series, or if it's a new trilogy set in this world, because sometimes they do that with urban fantasy series. I'll have to figure that out. The next thing that I finished is The Wrath and the Dawn Duality. The first one is The Wrath and the Dawn, and the second one is The Rose and the Dagger. This is a book series or duality that is inspired by the Arabian Nights fairy tales, the 1001 Night in specific, and there is a dark prince who takes in a new wife every night, and every morning that wife has been killed. That's a sort of thing that happens, and when our main character's sister or best friend goes in and gets murdered, she decides to volunteer to be picked next and trying to overthrow the prince. So yeah, it doesn't happen that way, but it's definitely interesting. It definitely changes her perspective, and it is very angsty. So if you don't like that, then you probably won't like it. But I gave the first one 4.5 stars and the second one 4 stars. I definitely enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to reading more by Renée Ahdieh in the future. I think I like her writing style. I don't like the deckled edges that's part of this, but that is a reading preference thing. But overall, I like the aesthetics, but I hate turning the pages. But overall, a good series, a duality, and I definitely recommend them. But be aware, it has a lot of angst and romance and stuff. The next series that I completed is a quartet, and that was the Ringwild Chronicles by Robin Hobb, the 4th series set in the realm of the Elderling universe that Robin Hobb has created. It's a 4-book series, and it is set in the same world as the Life Ship Traders, and a lot of the characters from the Life Ship Traders shows up in this series, and I love it so much. It is basically focusing a lot of dragons. The dragons have been difficult for them to hatch. They've almost become extinct, but they have this group of people trying to make sure that doesn't happen. I actually was surprised how much I enjoyed this one, because I've heard a lot of negative-ish sort of things about the series as a whole, and I went in with quite low expectations. I gave the first one 4 stars, and the second one 3 stars, 3.5 stars, I think. which is the lowest rated Robin Hobb book for me, and I am not sure I'm still at that place, but we'll see. The third one I gave 4.5 stars, and the last one I gave 5 stars. I thought Robin Hobb wrote an excellent ending to this series and really enjoyed it. I highly recommend Robin Hobb's books, as I've already mentioned. The next series I've finished is the Thermos Files by Sylvain Novelle. This science fiction trilogy that was really, really hyped. It is it's sort of written in this interview format, and there's a lot of hype around the audios because it's a full cast narrative and all of that. I listened to all of them in audio, and except the first one I think I read and listened in a way. Overall it was good. I didn't love it, but it was good. I gave the first one 3.5 stars, the second one 4 stars, and I think the third one I gave 4.5 stars. And I like the last one in the trilogy the most, which I know is also an unpopular opinion. But it's set in a world where this group of scientists finds a big giant hand in space, and it's part of this giant robot. And how did that come to pass? And if there's one, why aren't there more? And that explores that theory and what happens. And yeah, it's very interesting, and I liked it overall. The next thing I finished is a contemporary romance series that's called the Cocktail series by Alice Clayton. This is a 4-book series, and it is the first 2 books follows the same couple, and then we have the last 2 books that follows two other couples. I really loved the first one when I read it. I think I gave the first one 5 stars, the second one I gave 4 stars, the third one I gave 3.5 stars, and the fourth one I gave 4 stars, I think. So I think it went in that way. I'm overall happy I got back to reading this last year. I read Wallbanger, the first one, in 2014, I think. So like way back, and I didn't pick up the sequels until last year in June. But because they follow different characters, the majority of them, it doesn't matter. Because it's a new story, and for me it was easy to pick up the second book because it was picked up pretty well, and sort of you knew the characters when you started reading it, and it was a new story and it was interesting. So yeah, I enjoyed the series as a whole. I think it's an overall 4-star contemporary romance series for me. The next series that I finished was the Muthos Academy series, which is a 6-book long young adult urban fantasy series that's sort of, if you like the Vampire Academy series, I think you'll like this one. It has a similar setup. It's set on an academy, obviously, but it explores the different mythologies in the world. So both Norse mythology, Greek mythology, and Roman mythology, and stuff like that. So it has warriors. All of the people on this academy are warriors from the different mythologies, so like Valkyries and Spartans and stuff. And our main character is a gypsy, which in itself I don't think they picked the wrong name for the type of character, but they are magic users. They're able to be sort of psychics, if you will. Our main character can sense what other people are feeling by the touch of them, or something that's a personal item of them. They can know the story behind what they were thinking when they was holding that specific item or something like that. And for me, it was definitely an interesting world, and I really enjoyed Jennifer Estep's plot development-ish. They are really fast-paced, and I probably prefer her Elemental Assassins series over this, but overall I thought it was a really good young adult series, and I gave the first one 5 stars. I loved the first one. The second one 4 stars. The third one was 4.5 stars. The fourth one was 5 stars. The fifth one was 4 stars, I think, and the sixth one was also 4 stars. So I think we're on the route 4 to 4.5 stars for the whole series as a whole. And I definitely recommend it if you like, as I said, Vampire Academy by Rachel Mead, or even also, I guess, if you like Rick Riordan's books, maybe you'll also enjoy this one. It's a little bit more focused, has a little bit more romance than Rick Riordan's books has, so beware of that. But otherwise, I think they have a lot to offer. The next series I've completed is a trilogy, and that is the In Boonesboro trilogy by Nora Roberts. This is the second trilogy that I've read by Nora Roberts. And Nora Roberts is one of my personal favorite romance authors, and I'm definitely looking forward to getting back to reading more of her books again. This trilogy is set in a small town and following a family of 3 brothers that are trying to reconstruct an old inn, and there are personal romances and stuff. I gave the first book in this trilogy 4.5 stars, the second book I gave 3.5 stars, and the third book I gave 4 stars. So an overall 4-star rating for this trilogy as a whole. And as I said, I look forward to reading more Nora Roberts in the future. I prefer her standalones, but I'm pretty sure I will find some trilogies in here that I will really come to enjoy. She also has delved into the paranormal side of romance with, I know the Key trilogy is paranormal, and I know the Dream Catchers is, and I know that the Circle trilogy is, and there's the Cousin O'Dwyer series that follows like Welsh witches, and I'm looking forward to reading more of that type of genre. The next thing I have finished is the Wait for You series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is a new adult series, and it follows new characters with every book, and I think this is written under her J. Lynn pen name first and foremost. I enjoy her writing style mostly. There are definitely things that she could have done better. I think I love the first 5 books, at least the first 4 books in this series so much. But I think if I reread them now, the first one would, and the second one would probably not be my favorites. But the third and fourth one still remains to be my favorites in the series, I think. Overall, I gave the first 4 books 5 stars, I gave the 5th book 4.5 stars, and I gave the 6th book 4 stars. So I still really enjoyed the last 2 books, but it was definitely stronger in the beginning. So I guess an overall 4.5 star type series for me, but it's definitely not for all. It has some of the new adult tropes that a lot of people don't really enjoy, but I also think that she does better than some new adult authors does with these tropes. The next thing that I finished is the Creekwood series by Becky Albertalli. This is the first book is The Simon vs. Homo Sapiens Agenda. The second one is Leah on the Offbeat. The first one I loved to bits. I gave it 5 stars. The second one, Leah on the Offbeat, was more of a 3.5 star book for me. It didn't deliver as well as the first one, but overall I liked the books, and I enjoy how much family talk that was part of this book, the books as a whole. For me, my family is very important, so I feel like a lot of more books should focus on having a strong family, because that makes life easier in many ways if you have a strong family or a good foundation somewhere. And a lot of times I just think that parents are always made into be this negative part of the story, or adults in general, and I prefer when the adults are not made to be the horrible people, but they are actually part of a good story. The last and final series that I've completed so far is the Valhalla series by Peter Madsen. This is a Danish graphic novel series that follows the Norse mythology. I've talked about this series countless of times on this channel, I feel like, and this is the second volume of 3 stories. The Valhalla series is in complete 5 stories long, and it is made into this 5-part series where they have 3 of the Valhalla stories in here, alongside all of the original myths and the creativity part of the creation of this series. So here's a little image of the first volume, I think. This is volume 2, so it has Valhalla's 4, 5, and 6 in this one. And this is my favorite collection in the whole series, so that's why I got this first Also, I wasn't sure if I was going to get the first one for my birthday, but I didn't. So I'm going to collect all of them now. I love these. I love the art style that Peter Madsen has. I love the humor. I love the mythologies. And it is everything. I think I gave this series as a whole 4.5 stars if I take everything into account. The first collection was 4.5 stars. The second collection was 5 stars. The third collection was 4 stars, I think. The fourth one was also 4 stars, and the last one was 5 stars. So the second and last collection in this was my favorites, but I really enjoyed how it all tied at the end, and yeah. Overall, enjoyed this series so much, and it's my favorite graphic novel series, I think, of all, maybe. I still have a couple I haven't caught up to completely, but yeah. Anyway, these were all of the series that I've completed since my last video of this. Let me know in the comments down below which of these series you've read. Do you agree with my opinions? Are there any of these series you're surprised that I've read? Or something like that? And if you feel like it, you can definitely check out the first one. Although you just know it's a long time since I filmed that. My channel was only a couple of months old at the time. But yeah. Hopefully I will be able to do this video sort of soonish again, because I feel like I am trying to read more series, so hopefully there'll be a lot more completed series to talk about in the future. But let me know in the comments down below if you're planning on trying out any of the series I've talked about today that you haven't read also. And if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video very soon. Goodbye!